I'd like to call the City Council meeting of July 20th, 2023, 501 Main Street, 5:30 PM to call to order. And can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a roll call.
Crenshaw,
Here.
Garcia,
Here.
Oltmans,
Here.
Hellenthal, Andrews,
Here.
Tillman, Bryant,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
6 present, 2 absent.
Item number 4 is mayor's correspondence. We'll start with tomorrow, Friday. It's the 66th annual Crazy Days, and they run Friday and Saturday and today, along with the citywide yard sales. Clark County Fair opened last night, continues through the weekend with carnival rides, fun, music, and food for all. On Saturday, we continue with the 66th annual Crazy Days along Main Street and our citywide yard sales. Farmers Market is from 8 to 11:30 at the River City Mall. At 9 a.m., there'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony at Chatfield Park to celebrate their new playground equipment. Montrose, Iowa will be having a multi-vendor show at 10 a.m., and it will be at 2663 300th Street. Rampart Pavilion is having another concert at 7 p.m. The band is G-Strings. Bring your lawn chairs, and it is a BYOB night. Food will be provided for a purchase. Fivefold, along with the Bury the Shadows and Non-Grata will be playing at L Trains, and the doors open at 7:30 p.m. On Sunday, the 22nd, Blue Zillion will be playing at the Southside Boat Club at 2 p.m., and they'll be praised in the park at Wildcat Springs in Hamilton, Illinois, beginning at 6 p.m. Moving on down the calendar a little bit, on Saturday, July 29th, there'll be a Rockin' on the River festival from 5 to 11 o'clock p.m. Food trucks, cornhole tournament, cars, drinks, motorcycles, and much, much more. Music by Shades of Blue, then Ablers and Ghosts of Judas. And please come out, because that's being put on by our radio Keokuk, and they have supported us throughout the last 5 years, so we need to support them. After that, I want to say that the cleanup continues in the city of Keokuk, and we all need to be patient and kind. It's going to take us months. If you can haul your own debris yourself, please do. It is just a small fee at the transfer station, and please be kind to the employees there too. The storm wasn't their fault any more than it was yours or mine. And as always, we need to shop, eat, drink, and listen local. Keokuk is a great place to work and a great place to live. Please be the good. Item number 5 is citizens' request. And if you're coming forward for citizens' request, we will be asking that you take only about 5 minutes. And if there's more than one person coming forward for the same thing, please try not to repeat yourself. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Sue Prochaska. I'm with United Way of the Great River Region. I'm joined by our director, Mike Greenslaw. We're actually your neighbor next door at 515 Main Street. So just wanted to let folks know in the community that we're pleased to announce that this year, once again, we'll be holding the Back to School Festival. It's the 19th year. Thanks to Trinity United Methodist Church for their vision years and years ago. 2005 was the first event, and now we've been able to expand it and consolidate with a lot of support from businesses, churches, and organizations. So we welcome the community to come out. It's free and open to the public, regardless of school district or income level. We've got flyers posted everywhere on Facebook. We do want to remind folks that we did apply for a road closure on Plank Road right in front of Trinity Church there. So that section of the road will be closed so we can have safety for all those that are participating. And there'll be lots of activities at the event as well. Folks can get backpacks, there'll be ice cream floats, games, all kinds of agencies there that you can visit. If you're interested in volunteering, give us a call at 524-4504, and we welcome the community support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for citizens' request? Moving on to the consent agenda, item number 6. Minutes of the regular city council meeting and council workshop of July 6, 2023. Resolution approving a liquor license for the Arrowhead Bowl, 3535 Main Street, Class C, retail alcohol license, effective August 1st, 2023, pending fire inspection. Resolution approving a liquor license adding outdoor services for Lucky's Irish Pub and Grub, special event Rolling on the River, Class C, retail alcohol license, effective August 17th through the 21st, 2023, pending DRAM, and motion to pay bills and transfers listed in registers number 3531 to 5352. Do I have a motion for the agenda, including consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 7. Now is the time and place for a public hearing on the development agreement with MBMRE LLC D/B/A Green Oaks Development. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Gate City on June 23rd, 2023. I am opening the public hearing that was recessed at the July 6, 2023 council meeting at 5:37 PM.
Again, the agreement is with MBMRE LLC, doing business as Green Oaks Development for the renovation and redevelopment of 619, 623, 625, and 629 Main Street. The agreement provides for the project to receive all grant funds applied for and received by the city, as well as the following incentives from the city: $300,000 in ARPA funds, which were already committed to the project, $50,000 cash payment for 5 years funded by TIF, a 10-year TIF rebate equaling $130,000 or 10 years, whichever come first, refund of property purchase price upon completion of $25,000. Owner equity in the project is estimated at $1.4 million.
Any more discussion? City Clerk, were there any written comments or objections, and have you received them?
None.
There being no further comments or objections on this matter, I will close the public hearing at 5:38 PM. 7B, consider resolution approving the development agreement with MBMRE LLC Green Oak Development. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Excuse me?
Did we look into the parking?
Into the parking. I think that's something that we're going to work out with him once we have this approved and make sure that there is adequate or sufficient space to get as many cars off the street as we possibly can.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 8, motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance amending Title 20, Section 20.40.020, 20.44.020, 20.60.040, 20.60.090, 20.60.100E, and 20.68.020. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll need a roll call.
Crenshaw,
Aye.
Garcia, Altmans,
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Do I have a motion to waive the third reading of this ordinance? Okay, we will move on. Item number 9, motion to approve initial reading of an ordinance repealing certain sections of Title 9 Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Keokuk. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
The ordinance removes the final sections of the old code language relating to vehicles and traffic. We will now reference Chapter 321 of the Iowa Code in its entirety. We will allow all vehicle, which will allow all vehicle and traffic violations to conform to district court proceedings. In turn, it allows a greater portion of the fine to be sent to the city rather than other entities.
Any more discussion? I will need a roll call.
Crenshaw,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Altman,
Aye.
Andrews.
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Do I have a motion to waive the second and third reading of this ordinance? We'll move on. Item number 10, consider resolution approving the purchase of mowers from Armstrong Tractor for the Cemetery and Parks Department. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
As everybody knows, the tractor we had to go down the bluff, here a couple months ago, was a complete loss. These mowers are to replace that. One being a zero-turn mower, which is going to be much more effective in the park. The other being a remote-controlled lawnmower, which will allow the park and cemetery crews to mow the very steep hills without actually being on them. So makes it a lot safer. And these, we will be reimbursed from insurance for these purchases.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 12, consider
11.
Oops, I missed 11. Consider resolution approving a proposal from MSA Professional Services Incorporated to provide services for a comprehensive neighborhood revitalization plan. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Requests for proposals were due by June 16th. The Keokuk Housing Committee met, I think it was 2 weeks ago, to interview 3 consultants that actually had placed their or submitted a proposal. The group scored those. MSA Professional Services received the highest score at 340. The city actually received a grant for this planning. It's $25,000. And that was what the actual proposal was, not to exceed $25,000.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 12, consider resolution approving revised personnel policy and handbook.
Yes, so that personnel can meet with department heads.
Any more discussion?
Oh, there needs to be a second.
I'll second that.
Hey, Cole.
Yeah,
This is for the handbook, right?
yeah.
So I had a question because there's still that section in there under employee appearance about, it said if an employee violates the dress code, the supervisor can send them home, you know, blah, blah, blah. But where's the section that spells out the dress code?
So what it is each department could have their own dress code. We're having a staff meeting here at City Hall to present the dress code for City Hall on Tuesday.
So does that mean that it would be more of
Well,
like
I would want to look at what that dress code is first before we vote on this one then, I guess.
Okay, I believe I did send that out to the Personnel Committee, but I'll send it out again.
Am I on the personnel committee?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I will send that to everyone then.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on the personnel.
No, you're not. I'm sorry.
Any more discussion? Item number 12 will be tabled.
You got to take a
I
vote.
would like to table that.
Yeah, you have to say, you have to call for the.
I know. So do I have any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Item number 13, consider resolution awarding Oakland Cemetery derecho cleanup to Walker Outdoor Services. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
The Oakland cemeteries suffered severe damages from the derecho. Due to the extensive damage, city crews are unable to do the debris cleanup and tree removal, tree trimming, and stump grinding. We request entering into a contract with Walker Outdoor Services in the amount of $8,000 per day with an amount not to exceed $250,000. This is the amount capped for reimbursement from ICAP, but I believe that we maybe have some firmer numbers from Walker after he took a look at it, where the cost will be significantly less than the 250, perhaps even more around the $100,000 mark.
Yeah, he sent more of an itemized estimate back after we walked through the park or drove through the park on Wednesday afternoon. In addition to Oakland Cemetery, we are also going to be able to fit in taking the widowmakers and tops of trees out of Rand Park under this contract, and possibly any other parks before we get close to reaching that cap. So he has also included the parks under this contract.
Any more discussion?
Dorothy Cackley, 620 J Street. Was this a job that was put out for bids?
We took several quotes, and the other quote that did come in, their estimate was $300,000.
Okay, those are quotes. It's not published bids.
Because the state just declared this as a disaster under emergency relief, we don't have to go out for public bids. I did call all local contractors, and they wanted no part of doing this work out in the cemetery because, one, really nobody in town has the equipment nor the manpower. The two estimates we did receive, the first company was from Sigourney, Iowa. They were at $11,000 a day. And then the only other company to offer a bid was Walker's out of Burlington at $8,000 a day.
Okay. Do you know how many employees he has?
Walker, he has 8.
Okay. That equates to $1,000 per person per day.
Well, that also figures in his equipment costs.
Yes, the website lists some substantial pieces of equipment. I have to agree. Are they still liable for any damages to headstones?
Yeah, yes, so we require them to carry a $2 million liability policy.
Okay, and that's written.
Yes, they have to provide a copy of that to the city, which he already has.
Okay,
I believe he actually has a 4 million cap insurance policy.
all righty. And I guess it's not that significant, but in comparison, I checked and they are not accredited by the Better Business Bureau. And it does list one party in Farmington, Iowa as being accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Were they contacted?
Accreditation by the Better Business Bureau is a paid accreditation.
Excuse me?
When you are accredited by the Better Business Bureau, you pay to be accredited by them. It's a membership organization.
Okay. I guess that takes care of it then. It just seemed to me that that was a little excessive on a daily rate with the expanded out to 250,000.
His estimate actually is a not to exceed daily rate of $8,000. So he would only, actually, the range that he gave us was 3,000 to 8,000 per day, depending on the equipment that he used that day. And then he actually, this morning, emailed more firmer numbers for the cemetery and the park. It's just, it was too late to update the council agenda with that, with those additional estimates.
But if they make an approval of this, that is what they're going to be approving, right?
Well, we're approving a time and material contract, yes.
With not to exceed 250,000, because the 250,000 is what the ICAP coverage is.
Yes. And that's a co-op, if I understand it correctly.
ICAP? Yeah, it's a cooperative of municipal and county governments.
And how many times has the city used that before?
This
How many
year,
times have we used ICAP?
that's our insurance
Or
company.
or the specific portion of the policy covering property damage?
We also use that's who's covering, I mean, ICAP is that's who we get our insurance through. So we use them for the lawnmowers we just brought up that we're purchasing. We use them, that's just this year. Then
If there's an
SID
accident,
center damage, we use
yeah,
them for
if there's
that.
an accident with the vehicle, when we had the water damage at the development center, when we had the fire at City Hall, those were all covered under the ICAP insurance.
Okay, and how often does your rate of contribution or premium get adjusted to that?
That's adjusted annually, but it's not based just solely on our experience. It's based upon the experience of the pool.
Okay, all right. And one comment about the mowers. If you can possibly put a governor on them to keep the guys from running so fast on the streets and hitting the potholes, I think the mowers would last a lot longer.
These mowers, just to answer that, the mowers that we're purchasing, they won't be running on streets. They're not the big tractor type, like the big green ones you see running. They'll get hauled on a trailer, yep. We already have trailers for them, yes.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Oh, we had one.
Okay.
Crenshaw voted.
Item number 14, boards and commissions.
We have a final notice on the Depot Commission, Dustin Cackley, with term to expire 6/1/2025. We have a second notification for the Airport Commission, a first notification for the Airport Commission, and a resignation from the Keokuk Public Library Board, Nancy Graham. So I will need an omnibus motion for the Depot Commission and the resignation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, item number 15, council liaison reports.
The Oakland Cemetery Initiative wants to thank the city for the funds. We have now raised enough money with the grant we also just received to complete the first project of signs. We're also thankful for the cleanup of Oakland Cemetery, and we will be setting that new date soon.
Any more reports? Item number 16, staff reports.
We've got a lot of stuff going on down at the plant right now. We are nearing the completion of cleaning out one of our grit basins, and it's going along really well. We're also redoing our auger system, our grit handling system, and new skin is almost finished being put on the conveyor, our horizontal conveyor, and we're going to get a new auger. We have that already to go in, and we're also going to put a coating on the inside to further lengthen the life of that. And right now, they just started sealing the digester roof, and it'll take a little while, but it's looking good. That's about it.
I really don't have a report, but I do have a request. So MSA, in the service agreement, they will be having a pop-up neighborhood engagement event in September. So if anyone is aware of an event that's already happening in town that they could actually do a pop-up, if you could let me know, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Riverfront Trail is still on hold, waiting, SHPO clearance. Storm damage, just a general update. And just because the question has been asked quite a bit, as of right now, we do not have any outside funding for street cleanup. The only outside funding we have is, as we discussed, is our insurance, and that does not cover anything within the right of ways. We met with the insurance adjuster on Tuesday, took him around to all of the damaged property that the city had. We're waiting for his estimates to come back in, and then we will be going out for competitive quotes to get those various areas fixed. We have already engaged a contractor for tree cleanup at the airport. That is considered more of an emergency. We have to get the fence back up as soon as we can due to the FAA regulations. I've had 3 Teams meetings with DOT emergency response personnel. So we do have roadways within the city that are eligible for federal highway aid. And we are currently working with the DOTR personnel to get that funding. Our city estimates are due back to them by the end of the day tomorrow. And then that estimate goes into a pool that includes Keokuk, it includes Lee County as one entity, and then all the individual communities within Lee County. That threshold has to hit $1.1 million to be considered for the federal aid. From my understanding, just the sound wall is gonna put us over that amount. This has not been kicked up to a FEMA event. In order to be a FEMA event, we have to hit a $5.2 million damage threshold. So and that will include 9 counties. So we'll have to wait and see how the other counties come in with their estimates. Again, the city crews are still working on the cleanup, and I would like to thank all of our city crews for their continuous hard work on getting this major task accomplished, and like to thank the residents for their patience and help with the cleanup. The Rampart Shed metal siding project is underway. They started this week. It should be completed within the next week or so. And I met yesterday with Scyther and Cherry over at the Estes Park project. Their time frame is starting next Wednesday on July 26th. 5th Street will be closed from Main Street to the alley. And then for approximately 2 weeks for the construction of a 21 by 21 by 4 foot mat footing.
I have a quick question. Are the roads that would be eligible, not just only like the Main Street highways, would be like the scenic byway and those roads as well?
So they're called, we have the main ones, which would be Main Street, 7th Street, and the bypass.
Mhm.
And then we have feeder streets, then we have secondaries. Secondaries are like Grand Avenue and Middle Road, Carbide Lane, basically the main ones that connect.
Mhm.
And then we have feeder streets with inside, which is like 5th Street, High Street.
Yep.
There's a handful of them in town that are eligible.
Quick question on how residents can help. I had somebody contact me and ask if there is the possibility for us to set up it so that if they just have like small brush removal, I think traditionally we've been able to take it out to Great River Regional Waste Authority as long as it's not a, like a large tree.
They still allow that.
But are they charging everybody right now?
I believe they didn't charge for the first week or so, and then they began charging again. We've actually been having talks within City Hall of trying to come up with a place that we can allow dumping.
Okay.
We're still trying to find that place. So hopefully in the next week or so, we can come to some kind of a solution for that.
Okay, thank you.
We've completed the hiring cycle for the civil service test that took place in June. That did not produce any candidates that meet our standards for hire. We did secure another testing date today, which will be September 30th at 9 a.m. So you'll see that being advertised probably starting next week.
Pam, I have a quick question. So there's been 2 buildings in the Main Street area that have been fenced off. What's the action going with those buildings currently?
We're going to have to get most likely get a warrant to go into those buildings with a structural engineer to ensure that they're stable.
Thank you.
I did put in front of the council several different things. There's a report from Community Action of Southeast Iowa for the transactions for the ARPA funds that are used to help those that are behind on their utility bills and pay the garbage portion of that. There is an update from Paul Roos on the testing of the small turbine and where it's at. So you have that as well. And then I also, as a result of the resignation of Ward 2, there was a question of what it would take in order to possibly reduce the number of council members, considering that it was very difficult to find someone to come forward, and we have someone came forward. So we think that we're thankful for that. But what it would take would be a petition by the citizens, so we the city and city council could initiate that petition. A petition by the people with a certain number of voters who voted in the last general election. Then we could submit a ballot language at the November election with a plan or perhaps 2 plans of reducing the number of wards and how we would represent those, whether it be 3 wards, 2 at large, or 5 wards and 2 at large, or something like that. But it does take a vote, and then if it passes, then you have to wait until the next election cycle, which would be 2025, to implement the reduction. So that's the stuff that I have placed before you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, item number 17, closed session under Iowa Code 21.5.1C to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the government body in the litigation. Do I have a motion to go to closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Gotta get Carissa back on.
Seriously, I would never buy one.
Usually does.
Do I have a motion to reopen the meeting of July 20th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the memorandum for the settlement with ADM?
Resolution.
And it's a resolution. A resolution approving a settlement agreement with ADM Milling.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I'll read this. A resolution approving settlement agreement with ADM Milling. Whereas ADM Milling violated its pretreatment permit issued under Chapter 13 of the Keokuk Municipal Code from February 2022 through August 22, and whereas the City of Keokuk assessed fines for the violations pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Keokuk Municipal Code, and whereas ADM Milling contested portions of the fines and requested a negotiated settlement. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the City Council of the City of Keokuk, Iowa, that the settlement agreement with ADM Milling is hereby approved, passed, approved, and adopted this 20th day of July, 2023.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 19, new business.
That stop sign on 21st in Des Moines. Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of
I know you got busy.
got a little busy
Yeah.
before we really got into discussing that with.
They did
before I got to
ask
discuss
me if
with
it could
Tom.
be on 21st. If that's possible, going that way,
Okay,
the two-way. I just wanted to bring it back up.
so I got it written down now, so we'll have a discussion about it.
Thanks.
Any more new business? Item number 20, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The meeting is adjourned. We will take about a 5-minute break and come back to the workshop. Huh? I thought it'd be okay because of then it would accept that. I think they want it over with, even the one you're thinking. I think everybody just wants it over with. And I don't blame them. It's crazy.
Well, that's what I was wondering, is there anything do during the day? Like the day before? Okay.
ADM then for the fines? I didn't. How much? 90. Yes. Wow. Did they ever admit to anything?
Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
At least.
That's good. There's some conclusion. All right. Good deal.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the Keokuk workshop, July 20th, 2023. And we will begin with item number 1 on the list, and it's interview for the second ward candidate, which is William Tyler Walker. And if you would like to come forward, I'm going to call you Tyler. It's too hard to say William Tyler. Um, and stage-
So I'll go ahead and explain the process. The mayor or I will ask the question, since it usually ends up being me, because we don't have a vote. Normally what we did is if we had multiple candidates, the city council would do a rating. You're the only candidate, but we still want to go through the process of being able to ask you these questions so you can introduce yourself to Ward 2 and to the council. And then August 3rd, we would take a vote to appoint you as the second ward council member. Okay?
Okay.
So the first thing is you have the ability to give us an opening statement.
Well, I would just like to say thank you for this opportunity. I've been a longtime member of this community, and I've been wanting to be more involved, to give something back. So when I heard about this opportunity, I was very excited.
Right? So question number 2 is, what is the biggest challenges for Keokuk as a whole?
The biggest challenges for Keokuk as a whole, I would say, is economic growth over the next 5 years. How do we do it? And that's something that I would like to learn more about, and like to work with everyone else in developing better approaches, to develop long-term strategies for Keokuk's economic success going forward.
How will you communicate with your constituents and convey their thoughts, ideas, and concerns to staff and the council?
Well, the first thing that I would like to do is just walk around the ward, introduce myself to people, even if it means going door to door and hearing directly what people have to say. You know, up until recently, I wasn't even sure where my ward began and ended. I wasn't sure who the representative of my ward was. So this has given me a chance to learn more about how things like that work. And as far as reaching out to the people that I represent, I think there's a lot to be done, you know, maybe online, maybe sending out, you know, questionnaires, stuff like that. But I do believe the personal approach is best. And it would take a little while, but I would be willing to walk door to door through my ward, introduce myself, and to talk with people on a personal basis.
Thank you. What do you believe are the responsibilities of Keokuk's elected officials and the responsibilities of staff members?
The responsibilities of staff, I believe, are to represent people without bias. I think there's a lot of diverse backgrounds of people here in Keokuk, and a good representative would hear of what everybody has to say and try to represent them as a whole and not just one small subset of the group.
Okay. What should be the top goals for the city of Keokuk?
Top goals for the city of Keokuk should be preserving the spirit of Keokuk. I know Keokuk's not without its problems, but something that I do take pride in this community is everybody's spirit and the way they appreciate being a part of this town.
Okay. Well, that was the last of the questions, so you have an opportunity now for a closing statement.
I would just like to say thank you once again for this opportunity to be considered as chair of the second ward.
Council have any additional questions they might want? We're kind of
Thank
going.
you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Item number 2 on the workshop agenda is blue line speed control.
Either that or I can walk through it, however you want to.
Did the council have any questions after the presentation last week regarding that program? Otherwise, I think the next step is to determine, if you're in favor of it, to determine what the fine should be and what the hours of operation should be for those cameras.
Can you provide us some guidance on that?
Yeah, I would recommend, I know the first thing we need to determine is what we're going to set the speed limit at as far as receiving a citation. That would kind of determine the steps as far as the fines go. Most communities that implement this set fines for each 1 through 5, 6 through 10, you know, but they don't typically administer fines for 1 through 5. But they don't want to send the message that you're good to go 6 through 10. So the ability to adjust that speed limit would be there to put a fine in place for 1 through 5. I would recommend 1 through 5 at 50, 6 through 10 at 75, 11 through 15 at 100, and 16 and over at 300, just to send the message that that's really not acceptable.
And these are going to be at 25-mile-per-hour streets or 30-mile-per-hour streets again?
25.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure.
As far as the hours of operation, I have a few recommendations. My first recommendation would be have them operate 24 hours in those zones. That's going to change the driving behavior the most. People are going to know at no point can you speed through those zones. The second recommendation would be 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's going to cover kids walking to school as well as any events, practices that might be taking place in those zones. The third recommendation would be 6:30 a to 7 p, which again would, that's not going to cover all of our events. Some basketball games, football games don't start until 7 p, but it would cover the majority of the time kids are walking to and from school because it would cover practices.
Now, which schools was Blue Line Speed Control recommending establishing these zones at?
Hawthorne on Messenger Road there, and on High Street around the 1700 block. We do have Torrance there, we have Tumulty there, we have the YMCA up the road, we have the high school up the road, and there's a lot of foot traffic for kids that are going to those areas.
I think in the off season, you'd be surprised how many kids are out there pretty late, even after 10. So I would be in favor of the 24 hours.
I would be in favor of, I think, 24 hours as well, especially on Messenger Road there. People get cruising on that. And also with High Street, you have kids out there playing basketball until the lights go out.
Well, I think if we can come to, if you can come to an agreement on the fine amounts as well as the hours of operation, that some language could be presented for an ordinance next council meeting.
Okay.
I'm also fine with the fee table that you presented. I think that some people might hear that the 300, but we're talking 40 miles an hour and a 25 where kids are walking. So if you have a problem with that, you probably shouldn't be driving.
Agree.
Now, the other part of this program had the handheld LiDAR unit. Is there any discussion that you guys want to have on that? Again, that's the unit that would administer the fine in the same fashion. Outside of it's not an automated camera system, it's a handheld unit operated by a uniformed officer. This isn't, we're not trying to play get you, we're not hiding behind a bush, it'd be in a marked unit. And again, it would be the same parameters. You get to set the fines, you get to set when they're administered. The only difference is the way that the fine is processed.
And they pay for that, the labor of that, right?
Yeah, they will pay for overtime or regular hours for that unit to be operated.
The proposed fee schedule, how does that compare to if an officer pulls someone over and gives them a citation?
So the cheapest ticket for speeding is, I believe, around $89, which a lot of times when our officers pull somebody over, they might be doing 12 over. A lot of times they're going to give them a break and ride them for 5 over because we don't like taking money out of people's pocket either. So the 1 through 5 and the 6 through 10 both are going to be a little bit less than what it would be if one of our officers wrote a city citation. And another plus side for the drivers that may be receiving these citations, it's administrative. It's not going to go against their driving record.
You said though, for 1 through 5, we're not having a fee? We don't have a fine for 1 through 5?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do we have a fine for 1 through 5?
I think we need to list one. Most communities do list a fine for 1 through 5. That way you're not sending the message that you can go 5 over in this zone.
But you can make we make judgments on whether those we give those fines.
Yeah, we set the threshold, right?
Yep.
So if we set the threshold at 7 miles an hour
That's
over,
what I was gonna say. Okay.
then the citation would be issued. Now, if we come to a point where we think, okay, well, we're having an issue with people, they're pushing the limit, they're going 5 over, and you want to adjust that, you can adjust that down to 5 miles an hour over for a period of time if you want to.
So who makes that decision on what the threshold's going to be?
What's that?
Who makes the decision on what the threshold is going to be? We do.
council.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that because
Yep.
I wasn't sure if that was a department level decision or that was something that would come to the council and we'd make sure that.
No, that'll come to the council and should be outlined in the ordinance. And if
That's
there's,
okay.
the ordinance should allow for an adjustment per the council.
It should be cheaper than getting a fine from an officer as well, because you're not going to have court costs. I don't know if there's an administrative fee, but the cost of a ticket, you're going to have plus surcharges and court costs.
Any more discussion? Okay,
You got your direction? Have you got all the direction on everything, or do you need any other information?
No, I think if you guys are good with that fine schedule in 24 hours, we can put together some language for an ordinance and present that at the next council meeting.
I suppose with the 24 hours, was that 7 days a week or just school days?
If we're going to do 24 hours with the idea of adjusting the driving behavior in those zones, it should be 7 days a week.
And then with the hand, would we have a different kind of, with the handheld, it'd be 24 hours a day?
Yeah, so.
We only when, well, yeah, but we could do it anytime.
Yeah, you can do it anytime, and the way that works is you identify some trouble areas within town, and then within their software, you set up, say we want to run some traffic at 2nd and Main because we're getting a lot of speeders across the bridge. You program that into their software, you set the threshold at what you want to set it. Essentially, you set up individual zones as you identify them.
Do we need to make that, do we have to post that in a public location or anything? Does that need to be posted prior?
There is a community education aspect to this program. So before the program even rolls out, there will be media releases on social media, in the newspaper, on the radio, informing the public that this is something we're going to implement. And then the first month, I believe it is, they will issue warning citations as opposed to an actual citation with a fine, just to make sure that everybody's aware if you travel that area frequently, those cameras are there. There will also be signage.
So from my understanding, like the Lee County camera that can move around, they have to post every morning where it's going to be located. Is that something that we would be required to do?
I believe they're looking at a mobile unit.
Yeah, they're looking at a mobile unit.
As part of their program. I'm not too familiar with exactly what they're doing, but I believe they do have a mobile unit. And our LiDAR is going to be mobile. That's something I'm not opposed to saying, hey, we're running camera enforced LiDAR at this location on this day. I'm not opposed to doing that. This isn't about money. This is about changing driving behavior.
Okay, I just was curious. I wasn't sure how that would work. And I mean, if that was required or not, if like a public notice had to be provided or.
Well,
make
I-
that
I-
decision.
Stationary ones will have signs.
Yes.
That say,
Yes.
warning, slow
Photo
down,
enforced.
photo enforced. I think he said there's 2 or 3 signs
Yeah,
before
there-
it's actually there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I understand that a little better. I wasn't sure if that was something that, I mean, how that works, I guess.
No, and if that's something the council wants with the handheld unit, if they want some sort of notice prior to that being utilized, that's something, some language that can be introduced, but
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, Estes Park turbine. I see that we do have some people that are here to speak, and I ask that you take about 5 minutes. And if there's a bunch of people that are going to say the same thing, I ask that you do that quickly and try not to repeat. And if you would like to come forward, whoever wants to go first, come to the pulpit, state your name, let us know your address. Anybody?
Hi, I'm Kathy Asbury. I'm the president of the Keokuk Hamilton Dam Museum located at 428 Main Street. And I have provided some information for the city council. I know there's been questions, and hopefully this will answer some of the questions that you have. One of the questions was, did we look at other locations? And the answer is yes. But when you're a museum, you don't want one of your pieces located 6 blocks down the street from where the museum is. So, and the biggest reason that we chose this location was Ameren is donating this, and they're donating the transportation. This is where Ameren wants it, is at 5th and Main. So they're paying for the transportation to get it there. So if there are any questions, I gave you a picture of what it's going to look like. It will not be rusty. Like this one, we have to spend about $50,000 to put 3 different coats on it to withstand the weather. So it will be, and there will be a black wrought iron fence all the way around it, so people cannot climb on it. Kids can't climb on it and things like that, so. Yeah, and Ziegler Industries is doing the coatings for us.
Any idea how long that coating will last?
They think it'll last 5 years, and then we'll have to have it redone.
Prior to taking this to the Lee County Board of Supervisors, what kind of community outreach and input did you conduct and receive?
The Lee County Board of Supervisors gave us permission to put it here, and they are very excited about having it there.
No, I'm asking prior to going to the Lee County Board of Supervisors, I believe it was 2 years ago?
Yes.
What kind of community
years ago.
outreach, education, and input did the Dam Museum Board conduct?
Larry Wyman, the plant manager down at the plant, knew that they were going to replace the last 2. So when they started looking into getting a model of what they want for the new ones, they offered it to the city of Keokuk, and the city of Keokuk did not want it. So then they gave it to us.
So what kind of community outreach, education, and input did the Dam Museum conduct in regards to, like, for instance, when we did the comprehensive plan, we did several surveys about what they wanted, the community wanted to have in Keokuk. And I'm just curious if the Dam Museum did any sort of similar outreach, education, or
No, we did not.
community.
We had it in the paper. There were articles in the paper about it, but we did not do a survey.
Is Ameren or the Dam Museum prepared if the street cannot handle the load?
They've already checked that. Ameren has already checked that out with the Iowa DOT.
I'm saying if the street were to collapse, are they prepared for that liability?
Yes. There would be insurance.
That's all I'm,
Yeah.
okay.
Have we, as a city, have we received any of those DOT reports or information or insurance so that if something did happen, that we know that we are protected? Or does DOT have that information so that they know that they're protected?
Because it's coming across on a state highway and a state bridge, the DOT would be issuing that permit.
Have they issued the permit?
I'm
Right,
sure,
yeah.
I'm sure that they have. That would be up to the transportation company, and that's Ameren's responsibility. So they are well aware. I mean, they've been over 2 years knowing that they have to get permission from the DOT. Both
We're
states,
not
Illinois and Iowa.
We're not necessarily notified of oversized loads unless the height restriction requires a special route because of power lines or traffic lights or something like that.
Have you received input from the citizens since? I know that we're all being called. I know the Board of Supervisors are. I guess, how does the museum feel about, currently it feels very negative. There's a lot of negative energy around it.
It's been very positive with all of our guests that we have had at the museum. In June, we had 109 groups go through the museum. July, we've had 38, and they're from 18 different states. So I think what we're doing is bringing people to Keokuk. Last week, I talked to a couple. They were so excited about the Keokuk Hamilton Dam and power plant. And they said, you know, we didn't realize that Keokuk had so much history. We're going to have to spend another night here, which is what we're trying to do, is to get people. And whoever comes in our museum, we send them to the Verity, to the National Cemetery, to the depot. We have them look, you know, Grand Avenue, the houses on Grand Avenue. We try to show them that we do have a lot of history. And I know that we take the Mississippi River for granted. We take the power plant and dam for granted.
I agree. I was just wondering how currently locals do not seem to be in favor. So I was wondering how the
Because
dam is receiving that.
I think there was some misinformation sent out. The picture that we saw had a great big huge blackout area which took out the whole corner of 5th and Main.
Actually took out, it actually was facing this direction off of Main, and it was sitting right up facing the city hall. And that never was the place that it was going to go.
You say Ameren wanted to be there across the street, but they
Yes.
also said down by the river. In this letter here, Mr. Witt said, Warren Witt says, displaying the original turbine at the Estes Park Museum, near the museum, or down by the river at Victory Park.
Okay, once they checked into getting it down to the river, it's nearly impossible. I know that some people came up with another route, that you go down Main, you turn on 7th, and you go down Bank Street. I drove that. That street will not handle the weight, and there are 7 sets of electric lines crossing
Can't turn on
Bank
Second
Street.
Street and go down Second Street and go down Bank.
They can't make the turn. It's so long. the trailer's so long that they can't make the turn at Second Street to get down.
Like the trailer has 64 axles on it.
I did speak with Mr. Wyman. He indicated that Ameren is at the point that that if the location is ever changed, that they would not be putting any more money into the project. And then I did discuss with him an alternate site, and there were concerns about power lines and the condition of the roads and crossing the railroad. The condition of the roads and crossing the railroad.
We have already signed many contracts for this, and my name is on them. And I think we're at a point of no return now. If this would have been 6 months ago before, or last year, before we applied for this grant, we applied for it last July. This would have been done. They were supposed to let us know by the end of December if we got the grant or not. They didn't tell us until March of this year. So this whole project would have been done last fall had we known that we had the grant.
I'll be honest, my biggest fear is that the road can't hold it. And then my second is that I don't like that it's not being welcomed by the public.
You mean road, do you mean Main Street or Fifth Street?
Fifth Street.
I mean, Main Street, I believe, is structurally can handle it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about, I'm worried about Fifth Street. Don't they have
It's
to
only
turn?
gonna
They
go
said
to-
it's facing Fifth
They
Street.
just said they couldn't turn. They can't turn a
Well,
second, how can they turn a fifth?
I was like,
I
getting,
don't know,
Well,
I
once they-
haven't,
when
I
they
haven't
can't
seen
turn
their
on.
traffic plan, but I was assuming they'd pull the truck along Main Street and then pick it with a crane.
Yeah. And set it in place on the base.
hopefully it holds. Like I said, that's just a worry of mine, that could be a big, big issue. And then just that the public, it seems very negative currently. I know that you said that groups are positive, and I'm excited that people are excited, but I personally have not gotten one phone call where people are like, I'm excited about it going there. And that's what is concerning to me.
I think once the public realizes the attraction that it will be to Keokuk, then the minds will change. It will be an attraction. It's like, okay, other towns, Audubon, Iowa has the world's biggest cow. Okay? People go to Audubon, Iowa to see the world's biggest cow. There's towns that have the world's biggest belt buckle, the world's biggest strawberry. The people go, they go to that kind of stuff. But we have a part of history here. And as Cole mentioned, if you try to go across the railroad tracks with that thing, that's a whole nother issue. That's working with a rail line who doesn't like 90 tons going across their tracks. Each step that we mentioned about going over the hill costs more money, a lot more money, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And Ameren is really at the end of the money they're going to spend. Hamilton, by another example, Hamilton is welcoming theirs, and it'll look different than ours. It's put on a pedestal, and it would be higher. You know, if we wanted to put ours like theirs, it would stick up higher. We're keeping ours low and in its natural position.
I think the citizens in Keokuk are concerned about the size of it being in that small park is what, it's just going to be as big as that gazebo just about.
Well,
Yeah,
not
11 foot, 4 inches, 6.5 inches by 17.4, about as big as that gazebo. So the citizens are concerned about that sitting on that corner as big as it is on that small park. That's what.
I don't think you've heard from the people that want it because they don't want to get
I hear
involved.
from my people, the citizens of Keokuk.
That don't want it. People who don't want it have been encouraged to do that. And We have not encouraged our people. We have a lot of supporters in this community that help us with our fundraisers and come to our events. We have a lot of supporters. I didn't want to get them mixed up in this.
I think it's just a shame that there was no public outreach prior that to gain the interest of what the public was going to say about it. And then that's where I come from is that when it's something like this that impacts the whole community, we should all do our due diligence as organizations, as having been a nonprofit leader in the community, is to do some outreach and education around it, to gather input, because it does impact all of our residents and also our visitors. And I think that's just where I feel that that it's a shame that was an oversight.
Well, I'd like to commend you for trying to break something to Keokuk. It's part of our heritage, and we've let so much of our heritage go. People come here to look at that, hopefully go across to the building over there, and you can direct them to the other places we have in Keokuk to go see, and they might come out and they look, oh, there's an antique store, let's go down there. Or there's a shoe store here, or there's Cahill's over here, jewelry store, maybe we'll go over there and see what they got. We need to attract people here. What is there, 10,000 cars a day go down that main street? I mean, it is a large number of cars. Hopefully some of them will stop and look at it and come over and inquire. I'd like to thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
They like the new bakery next door.
Hey, Cole.
Yeah,
I have a question. Hey, Cole.
go ahead, go ahead.
They mentioned that there was one going in Hamilton. Where's the location of it? One going in Hamilton.
What's the one in Hamilton?
It's at Great Lakes.
Green Lakes.
Great Lakes Boat Shop.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Great Lakes Boat Shop.
Great Lakes Boat Shop.
So
on
is
a-
that kind of a similar situation of on a busy main street?
It's on the highway, 96.
It's on a highway, but not within the business district.
Okay.
Will that one be, where on that property at Great Lakes will that be? I mean, there's a huge parking lot there. Is it towards the highway? Is it towards the river?
It's on the west end, about near the highway. It's off about 50 feet, I'd say.
50 feet off the highway,
And-
but it's in that parking lot?
Yes, yeah.
Next to the-
You can see the poles sticking up there. They're getting in preparation for it.
So, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm not saying which way or the other, but I guess what I see is, if it was set farther back off the corner, I think that there's be a lot more happier people. That's what I hear is it's right there on the corner, blah, 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 blah. And that's my opinion. If there could be a compromise there,
We're putting it in between the sidewalks,
I understand that.
and it will not affect the flagpole or any of that. So it's not going to be towards the road, the main road. It's going to be facing Fifth Street back.
Yes, and I understand that. My point is a lot of people have said to me, why can't they locate it centrally on the property, even though the gazebo's there? Maybe the gazebo needs to come down or something. So it's not this great big thing that everybody sees when they're driving down the street. That's all I'm saying is that's what people have said to me.
It's been taken into consideration, and according to Larry, the crane won't reach into the park.
Okay.
I don't know that there's a whole lot that we're going to be able to do as we don't own the park, and I don't, know what the city can do. I do think it's a bit of a moot point to say that it's like the world's largest spoon or whatever, if there's gonna be the same one 5 minutes away at a better angle, it sounds like. So I'm a little bit concerned still about that, but I don't know, is there anything that we can even do if that was the goal of this?
I think it was just to express the public input that we're getting is negative.
Okay.
And that we just want to make sure that you understand that. And so that, I think that's what I was hoping to express to you, is that we've not received a lot of positive and people, we can't do anything about it, but we are wanting to tell you that, so you know. That's what I was.
How
pretty
many
much-
of you have been through the museum?
What did you say?
How many of you have been, excuse me, through the museum?
I've been through the museum several times and brought several students through the museum, but they didn't come here for the museum. They came here because of other reasons, and then I showed them the museum because it's a thing. I also volunteer to answer the phone for the chamber in the Main Street once in a while, and I send people there when they call. I think, they don't know about it until somebody tells them, typically, is one of the things, but when they're saying, hey, I'm coming to Keokuk, what is there to do? And I'm like, here, go to the damn museum. Go,
We have people calling. We had 2 large groups of people that came, an RV group and the
And I think I
Model
told them about it,
Ts.
actually, that RV group, because I did tell them about it.
But we have other. But we want people from out of town. They're the ones that stay in the hotels, eat in the restaurants. That's what we want is, it's not going to be this humongous thing in a small park when you see it. I mean, the picture shows you that it's not huge. There's no seats in the gazebo. When it was rebuilt, they didn't have seats in it. So people don't use the gazebo because there's no seats to sit. So we're trying to get and build some seats in the gazebo so people can come, look at it, sit, go next door and get a sandwich, come out and eat, and really use the park because no one's using it right now. Do you want us to have people call you saying yes? I mean, is that what we need?
I haven't had a single call either way.
We've had lots, but. No. No one has come in to talk to us, negative, except one person.
In my tenure up here, there was people didn't think we should have built a new swimming pool. There's people didn't think we should have built the pavilion. There's people still believe we shouldn't have put in the permeable pavers. The list goes on and on.
Okay, guys, is anybody done with those questions? Do we have anybody on the other side? Okay, thank you guys very much.
Hi again. I'm Erica Barrett, and I'm just talking as a private citizen that had concerns about the turbine. I've been pretty outspoken about my opinion of it, but I also want to be clear that being against the location of the turbine doesn't mean I'm against the Dam Museum at all, or the idea of a turbine being celebrated. I just don't like the location. And I do think it is categorically huge. It's the size of 14 African elephants, and the average weight of a single story home is 70 tons, and this is 90 tons, and it's in a much smaller space. So there is a concern about the structural integrity of the park itself. We had the Green Tambourine collapse. I don't know I didn't see the engineering tests with the coring and whatever. I don't know if they went all the way down to prove that it goes all the way down to bedrock, or if there are tunnels like there were under the Green Tambourine. I don't know if we know that. That hasn't been told. So that's my concern. I do think that there is a concern about like the DOT plans haven't been laid out for us to see, how it's going to be put in. I was told when I went to the Dam Museum that it was 2 cranes that was required to put it in, which 2 cranes on both of that trying to triangulate is also a weight concern. So one of the biggest things is I think that our sites for our town, we set them too low. I think that sometimes we are just we're hemorrhaging and we're trying to staunch the bleeding and get by. But I think that our town is great and it has so much history and we have a lot to work with here. And Estes Park is the site of one of the Civil War hospitals and it has a purpose. And there's a lot of really great things that can be done. And I don't think we have to compete for real estate. I think that 30%, I think, of Keokuk is undeveloped land. I think there's a lot we can do to work with it. I think Victory Park is a place that needs to be developed as a river town. And I think that there could be a lot of potential there. Now, logistically, I've heard that it's quite difficult to move the turbine down by the river, and I get it. But I do wonder if we are imaginative, and I wonder if there's other options that we could consider in terms of, I don't know, barge or if there is a way that we could figure it out. But I do think that Estes Park, the buck shouldn't stop at Estes Park. There should be other options that we explore. I also, in terms of community outreach, I found out about this. I'm new to the community. I've only lived here for a year. And I found out about this through my job in March or April. And as soon as I found out, I went over and I asked Kirk about it. And I had talked with him, and we thought, if we can get some ideas of alternative solutions, that maybe it could be presented to the dam board and they could consider other options. So the first thing I did was I conducted a survey, which you guys already know about, not the most scientific, but 300 people did respond, which 87% of the people said they don't want it at that park. And then the Daily Gate in 2021, when this first became a thing, they conducted a poll and 300 people said they want it at Estes Park, but 600 people voted against it. And that was closed just a couple months ago. But I do think that is telling about how the people feel. And so for the county supervisors and for the Dam Museum to say they've heard nothing about it, there have been opportunities, especially, from 2021 when that poll was conducted, it just seemed like they chose to ignore it or weren't made aware of it, just like the public wasn't made aware of the turbine actually being placed there. And with their sites too low, I worry about the structural integrity of the museum itself, with foundational issues and things. I don't know if it will withstand the ages like the turbine will, and then we have a turbine without any context, away from the river, away from the dam, and there's no organization to explain it. Or maybe there is an organization, but they've moved because their building has collapsed. And then I wish that we had moved it down there. I kind of had proposed an idea of maybe building a museum down by Victory Park, having the turbine there, having a sculpture park with the walkway that's going to be put in by Victory Park. So we could have a sculpture garden to rival Des Moines' sculpture garden, which is something that Kirk was excited about. I wonder if, maybe we need a representative from Ameren to come and actually speak logistics instead of us wondering what's going in and assuming, oh, well, Ameren does this or this is Ameren's job. I would love to hear what Ameren has to say about the logistics, about the engineering reports, about the safety, about the route, about the probability of being able to have a different alternative rather than just saying it's impossible. I'd like to hear the facts about that. I think I do think our sites are too low. I think it's really exciting that there were 109 groups in June and 38 in July from 18 states, but I do wonder if we could have more. Like as Keokuk continues to develop and we work on our identity, if we could have even more people come. Like that's exciting, but why don't we have even more folks? We should. And when it comes to tourism, I think that tourism We are constantly looking at people who are coming out and visiting, but isn't the long-term goal of tourism for people to eventually decide, you know where I want to live and settle down with my kids? I want to live in Keokuk, right? Because residential money is just as valuable as tourist money, right? And if we want this to be something that people come back to again and again and again, and if we want people to love this place and to come back and feel proud of it, it shouldn't just be I took a picture by this and I'm done. It should be, I have a membership to this museum, or I am invested in this, and it has been a godsend for my kids on a hot day, or it has been something that we can be learning about our history and feeling a sense of pride about, not like, I didn't like this thing, I didn't want this here, and now it's here, and we have to deal with it. And it's a metaphor for not being listened to, and another thing to be a keyboard warrior about. I do think that we take the riverfront for granted, and I do think there could be development there. We've talked about how there is flooding, but it's flooded severely 3 times in the last 30 years, once per decade. And I think that there could be some measures done to help with flooding. Like if flooding does happen, I don't think that that should be an excuse to not develop what we have. And the last thing is, if you go in and you take a look at where the markers have been put for the cement slab that will be put there, which I don't know if there's a pylon or if that's the only thing that's going to be there to support that thing. It is large. And I think that if you put the turbine there, it's going to cook everyone. It's going to make this block like 20 degrees hotter in the summer because it's going to absorb heat, and it's going to fry the tree, like one of the only trees we have on Main Street. And I think it will impact us in ways that we haven't yet thought of. So again, I do think that the turbine is really great. I do think the Dam Museum is a wonderful idea and a great institution, and I do support it. I don't agree with where the turbine is being put. And I think that just because something is done for free, and I think that a lot of us looking back on our history can think about this, just because something is offered to us for free or for a low amount of money doesn't mean that it's a good idea and it's something that we should do. Because it turns out, if we look back on this in 50 years, people are gonna be like, why did we decide to put this here? Because it was the easy thing or because it was the right thing? And I don't think it's the right thing. And I think that the city or the community reflects that position with how they've responded in the polls that have been afforded to them. I did. I tried to talk to Gary Seib, and he told me that I was the first person to talk to him in 2 years, and why was I bringing it up now, and who was I? And I told him I was a resident and I had just moved here. And he said it's done. I don't believe it's done until it's actually in the ground, and then I'm praying that it doesn't collapse. And so I think that we can continue to have the discussion until it's put in the ground. Yeah. Matt Flug had said something like, oh, I wish now I would have gone back on my vote. And then Tom Schultz had said, oh, well, if you talk to the city council, which is why I came to you like maybe last month. And yes, which we talked about was kind of like a cop-out. Yeah, and so it just kind of became a loop. And so I'm attacking it because you can't just like put our hands up in the air and go back and forth and then all of a sudden it's done. And it's like, I wasn't aware. I want to confront it head on and try to discuss it and do what we can to try to explore or troubleshoot ways and compromise. Yeah. It's interesting because like if I'm a resident, right, and I want to put like a fence in my yard, don't I have to put up a sign for like an appeal? Right?
But there's nothing over there within our ordinances that they don't need a building permit because they're putting in a concrete pad and it's smaller than what's required for a permit. It's their property. They can, they can put up a monument in the park. So
I can put a monument in my yard also?
if it met the zoning requirements, yes. Okay? There's nothing in our ordinances that prevents them from doing what they're doing. Yeah, they'll need a fence permit for the fence.
Okay. If the due diligence has not been done and it is hollow and it doesn't reach bedrock and there is a collapse, who is liable?
That would be the property owner.
And is the county, this is the wrong venue to ask that question. Are they prepared to assume that liability?
All I can state to you is that the county has liability insurance and property insurance that they would have to apply for to make a claim on.
Any more questions?
Yeah, no, it's understandable. It's just, yeah. And I think it's important to have a discussion so that there's a record of it, right? And that's, even when there's things that we can't necessarily change, to be able to discuss and to act within our rights is something that is still important to be, to go through that process, even if it results in nothing. So I appreciate you for taking the time to hear me.
Thank you, Erica. Anybody else?
My name's Dustin Cackley. I live at 3186 Middle Road. And I would like to echo some of the same things that Ms. Barrett said. I would like to know where Ameren is on this. I would rather have someone like a representative from Ameren come out and say what their status is instead of having you guys take the word of a group or organization that is for the project. I think that's very important to get both sides to come out publicly and say what they got to say and give the citizens of this town their true and truthful, purpose behind wanting it over there on Main Street. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. And the other thing is the information on the DOT, the permits, if they've got the proper permits, all that stuff needs to come out in public and be stated for the citizens to be able to have a true picture of what is really going on here instead of, well, that's what they said. Well, everybody that's been in an organization long enough, that's what they said. Well, they need to come and say it in front of this body here so that the citizens know exactly what's going on, because they don't count when it's being information given by only one side of this issue.
Hey, Dustin, I don't want to interrupt you. I respect that. I just don't know what that will change for us. I agree
okay.
that I just meant like
Right.
having the permits and stuff. I agree. It'll be nice to have that on file. But if Ameren comes and says, we don't want it here, but they've already signed contracts with the Board of Supervisors, we're in the exact same position we are right now.
Okay, so just let me ask the question then.
Yeah.
Of you guys, is there no resolution or anything that can be put on an agenda to say, hey, the citizens of this town have come forward and said, let's pump the brakes on this a second. And is there anything that the city council can do as far as putting it on an agenda instead of just a workshop to say, okay, these are our options. We either find a alternate location. There's a empty lot at the end of Main Street, 2nd and Main Street, right next to the bridge. That's an empty lot. I happen to know that there's some information about what the status of that lot is or could be in the near future. That's a possible project that could be developed, and that could be made a park. and it could be dedicated to Lock and Dam 19. Why not? I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah,
Because it's closer to the riverfront. It's not, this thing's not going down over any railroad tracks. It's just going right to the corner of Second and Main Street, and it can be offloaded right there. And that could be a more suitable option for this thing instead of having to look at it right on Main Street.
I don't know the legality of it, to be honest with you.
I'm
My-
just bringing that to you guys' attention
My
as an option.
assumption is it's very similar to if you want the structure in your yard, I can't tell you. Actually, I would like it put over here. It is my assumption.
Well,
So a resolution of the council is non-binding on those parties, so they could still continue. The council could pass the resolution stating that they're opposed to the location and that they should stop and everything, but it's non-binding.
well, as a citizen, I will give you a citizen's take on that. That would be more than that would be an easier pill to swallow than having the governing body of this town just throw up their hands and say, oh, there's nothing we can do. If the attempt was made, it would be like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? It would be something being done on the governing body's part to say, hey, we've heard what the citizens have had to say. This is what we're going to do. It may or may not work, but at least the citizens know that someone is listening to them and has the backbone and the spine, truthfully, to do something. So does anybody else have any questions for me and my ideas? Because
I do want to just share with you that we did receive the letter that was written to the Lee County Board of Supervisors on May 12th, 2021, in support of, from Ameren, from Warren A. Witt, just so you did know that we do have record of Ameren supporting that location for the park, because you had asked if Ameren had supported it, and so I just
Okay.
wanted to tell you that.
But see, that took someone to come and say, hey, what the heck is going on and what's their side of it for that to come out. And that should have been done by the organization that's trying to get this to happen, and it did not. So thank you, Shelley, for that. But I just wanted it to go on record that didn't happen. And that's what the majority of the citizens in this town are having a hard time accepting and dealing with. So any other questions or comments? Awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Justin. Anybody else?
I just want to say, if we all know that was the Estes house, there was buildings over there and they were tore down and they filled that lot with 8 foot of sand, fill sand, and compacted it. Now, if that it's 90 tons, it's sitting on the corner, if it's for some reason starts sinking, is this city, the Lee County, who's responsible for taking care of it?
Property owner.
Property owner.
I'm sorry, the property owner, or if the property owner has, well, I don't have a light on mine. Or if the property owner has an agreement with the organization.
My question is, the city's not going to have to have it.
Correct.
So if it, and I'm not saying it's going to, don't anybody get excited, but if it would damage the city street, who is responsible? That's our street.
Yes, it would be the contractor.
And do we have that in writing? Any place, anywhere?
You mean, do we have it written in writing for this particular instance?
No, we do, we just have we know that they have insurance. Everybody, I mean, you guys have said they have insurance, and I'm not saying they don't or they do or anything else. I'm just saying. I'm just saying we have no paper trail. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, or you're right or wrong, or anybody else. I'm just saying that we've said a lot tonight that Ameren has this and this, and that's all I'm asking is do we have a paper trail?
So for instance, in the case with ITC, we worked with them on a route that's appropriate so that for instance, we decided, because the bridge, we were like, well, we're not going to repair the bridge until after that work. ITC has an agreement with the city that they will repair any damages to the roads if something were to happen, from my understanding, yes?
Correct. And that was a much larger project that required that. What I would suggest is that we request from the Dam Museum organization copies of the insurance that should be submitted as part of the contract to the city so that we know that if there's any damage, that is who we go and apply a claim to.
So when we do a demolition at a property, we always take pictures of the sidewalks, streets, that sort of thing, buildings, to make sure that there's no damage after the fact. So I think that that's probably something that should be done. I just wanted to ask you guys, so has the foundation, is it engineered? Was it engineered? Okay. And was there any core done at the, okay. So do you mind if you submit those so I can take a look at them? Is that a problem? Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? With that being not said and everybody's done, we are going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for all for coming.